And let's get this going, and then should be able to do this here. All right, so the plan is to pick up where we left off on lesson 3, which I think we finished bubble 5. Thank you. And we should be able to get through that pretty easily, and then take a look at the practice app from lesson 4. I can go ahead and visualize that if you like. And so let's see, we got meeting going, sharing everything. All right, let's jump right in. And did we finish? For those of you who didn't finish lesson 5, or excuse me, bubble 5, we did, this was, we're again still adding console.log statements are concatenations of strings and numbers and variables for arithmetic included into those concatenations, all with console debug console outputs. Okay, so that was from last time. Bubble 6. Let's make sure I have the newest one of these. And all right, so this concept, we talked briefly about the idea of variables that we use as integers, meaning numbers, whole numbers. I think that's where an integer exists, is super common. And the idea of using a variable or changing a variable to something new, which that's what it means, variable, to change to something, give it a new value based on what it was before, and then change it somehow. The most common is to increase it by 1. Variable name gets, or the variable gets whatever it used to be plus 1 is super duper common. And there's a shorthand, plus plus means gets itself plus 1. And anytime you have some sort of counting variable, that's what it will be, because you want to count up by 1 to see how many times something happens. And every time you call that, this will go up by 1. Okay, this statement right here, my var gets my var plus 1. It's increasing it by 1. Okay, and you would put that somewhere in the code that would only run when you wanted my var to go up by 1. What we're doing here is creating and adjusting an app that goes up by either 5 or by 20. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and dump the play sounds because it sounds and doesn't really do anything. And so here we have a global variable, dollars. It's initialized to 0. And then we have 2 event handlers, add 5 button, which that one, add 20 button, that one. And when the click happens, this variable dollars is this one, it's increased by 5. The value of dollars, whatever it is at the time this happens, whatever it is, it's getting replaced by whatever it just was plus 5. Then we're taking that new value after this runs. The new value is whatever it was plus 5, and we're setting the property of this dollars label. We're setting its text to a concatenation, train cars, the character, the dollar sign character plus the value of the dollars variable. Okay, whenever you're using the name of a variable that's not in quotes, Obviously, if it's in quotes, you're saying the actual word dollars, which doesn't really make any sense. But if you're ever using the name of a variable, you're referring to what's in the variable at that time. Okay, what is in the shoebox? And at this point, the first time through, if you click on this first, the answer or the value is 5. Starts with 0, and every time goes through 5. We just want to do the same thing again, except by 20. You can just go ahead and copy this, put the cursor down where you want it, Control V, but also reset and change the amount that it's increasing to 20. And the set text is the same. Okay, 5, 5, 20, 20, 25, dun, 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 there you go. Okay, everything is just being replaced. Okay, so you're changing the value or updating the value of the variable and then using the value of that variable in the display or in the interface on the screen. And that's all we need for bubble 6. Not that hard. All right, so bubble 6, let's see what we have here. Does anything work? Oh, well, first I hate that. Okay, so we have an app that kind of works, except for the fact that let's just look at the code real quick. We have 2 variables. One is called all reminders, and it starts with a string, feed the cats. And then another variable called new reminder, and I can already tell I need to refresh this because if I click on this, you can see the cursor moves. Give me a second. There's a lot of times App Lab or code will sort of like jam. Just F5 it there, you'll be fine. Okay, run the program, see how it works. Oh, they give us watchers for some reason, and which doesn't actually make any sense because, okay, it kind of does. New reminder is whatever's getting put in the text box, and it's being, well, here's the reason why you would want to use console.log statements rather than a watcher, but it's fine. Okay, so we have 2 variables being declared. One is getting an initial value, and right off the bat, we are setting the property of reminder text, which is this huge text area here, setting the property of its text to whatever the value of all reminders is, and all reminders, its current value is that. In the body of the code, there's only one event handler, and that is the reminders button. And every time it's clicked, the variable new reminder is replaced with whatever the user has typed in the text input. Okay, this design element is called a text input. It has a property of placeholder text, which some of you were having trouble with in the last app, where you would use the text input and type in the placeholder text, but when you hit run, it disappears, or when you click in it or type in it, it disappears, or you can't change there's no font properties of placeholder text. It's just that faint thing. Regardless, this new reminder variable gets whatever is in the text input there. Okay, and every time you hit remind, it's replaced with a new thing. This update variable reassignment is not updating based on what already exists. It's based on what is currently in the text input at that time. Then the all reminders, which is sort of the running total, is going to be replaced by whatever it used to be, followed by a new train car that is this variable. Okay, so this one has to come before this one, otherwise it won't work. And then after that, it is just updating the interface, the text area. Okay, so our problem is that when the button is clicked, it adds whatever is in the text area to the end of our running statement, but it just sort of abuts it to the end, where, like, if we did remind, then change that to remind. Okay, all right. So maybe you remember from last time the thermostat app, where I made you change it to clear out the text input when you went back to the home screen. I think you'll agree that if you type something in here to be added to our running total, this should probably clear out also. We'll do that later, but that is also my requirement. But we need to figure out a way that every time you add a new to do, it goes to a new line so that it ends up as a list. Okay, when the button is clicked, add new reminder to the screen, a new line. Remember, input should be cleared out. Okay, so it is doing that. All right, so how do we make this go to a new line? Well, because this text area is being filled by whatever in this all reminders, we're going to include it in our concatenation here. And the way we can do that is, I think we probably need to do it before, like in between the two, the existing running total and the new thing. So we can put a new line command of which is just a new string \n close string or close quotes and a plus. Okay, so this is anytime you have that new line command, it does need to be inside of a string, even if there's nothing else inside the string. Okay, and if we put that in between these the new addition to it and the running total, it should work. Let's see here. And then and there we go. And you could even do something like if we put a dash after that new n and we hit run, then each of them will have that. You could probably make it a number or some other thing like that. You don't have to do that. I'm just letting you think about the way things work. And the last part is we want to clear out the text input. And when do we want to do that? We want to do it whenever the reminder button is clicked. So we need another set property or set text, set property, and choosing text here is the same thing as doing set text. All of these set text, there'll be set image, set whatever, set color, is the same thing as set property, and then choosing the text property. The set property bar or block, it can do anything. The set text things are just very specific, whatever. Okay, so whenever we click on the remind button, we want to set reminder text. No, not reminder text. What is it? Reminder input. We want to set its text to an empty string. And now we go like this, hit remind, and it clears out. And that's how you do that. Okay, this sort of thing is essentially the majority of our lesson 4 thing that we're about to do. And I think that's it for bubble 7. All right, I talked about this briefly before about global and local variables. Okay, there is a use for both of them, but the most common way you will interact with it is a typo, a mistake of putting var in two places. Okay? You only need to use var once. The first time you declare that variable, which will usually be at the very top of the code. And then every other time you just say the name of that variable and it works. Okay, let's see how long this is. 251, not too bad.
It looks very similar to one we've already seen. It creates a variable and then assigns it a value over here. Event that allows the variable to increase by 1 every time the button is clicked. Finally, we set the property of clicks, and that just lets us see how it's changing over time. And we've also got this watcher down here so we can see how the value of clicks is changing. But when we run it, something weird happens. Over here, we're getting NaN, that stands for not a number. And down here, we're seeing that clicks isn't changing at all. Now, the solution to fixing this problem is pretty easy. And for now, it's the only thing you're going to need to do. If you switch over into text mode, this is even easier. You'll see that clicks is being created here on line 1, but we're also trying to recreate it on line 3. We go back into block mode. Here's the program how we're used to seeing it, and it's not that different. But suddenly our program runs as we want, and we can see it both here and down here in the watch panel. The reason that this is happening is because of a concept called scope. And without getting too into it, the basic idea is if you create a variable inside of a block like onEvent, and in particular, anything that has this function command, which you're going to learn more about later in this year, it creates a variable that has local scope. Local scope means that you can only use it in the space that it was created. And that means anywhere inside of this onEvent. Most variables we want are going to have global scope. It's best practice to create variables for now at the beginning of your program, like we did here on line 1. While eventually you're going to want to create some local variables, for now we don't, and so you're going to need to debug programs the way we just did. Make sure you're not using var inside of an onEvent. Use your watch panel to see if strange things are happening, like a variable isn't changing when it looks like it should, and check if you're getting weird output, for example, like we got not a number. Later in the course, you'll learn more how.
Okay, so that's essentially exactly what I said. Let's go back. I don't know why it opened up like that. All right, so yeah, so that's the issue here. This isn't really a local variable. You're not really, or this example where var is inside of the function, initializing or declaring a new variable inside of a function is creating a local variable. The problem is in this situation, it's really just an error because it was intended to be a global variable and not a local one. This is an important difference because if you want it to be if you want a variable that, hey guys, settle down for a second. If you want a variable to be accessible by multiple functions, the same variable that you want to be able to do multiple things to, or not just have multiple functions be able to change it, but be able to reference it. Like if you have a function that is just about updating the screen, which is a useful way of organizing things, where you just call update screen and you've abstracted several commands to update what's going on the screen, which is why you call it that. That variable needs to be global so that everybody can access it. I don't really ever, I mean, local variables are good when it's super complicated and you need to keep stuff organized. You can reuse variable names if it's local, but yeah. And I think that's the only change we need to do here. If you are super anti text mode, you can technically just bring in another or the other type of variable block, the reassignment, rather than the declare and assign, and just put all this stuff here. Or you could just go to text mode and delete var from line 8. And there you go, it works. Okay, the program has yellow warning, click the +1, remove the var inside, yeah. And did they give us watchers on this automatically? No. All right, so that's it for bubble 9. Bubble 10. All right, so this one's a little more complicated. Let's take a look at what we need to do. Okay, so the program keeps track of the money collected for tickets. 3 different variables are created for the cost of each of the tickets. Okay, run the program, see how it works. Let's see what happens. Adult. Oh, wait, let's speed this up. Adult goes up by that much. Child goes up by that one. Well, first thing I'm gonna do, let me get rid of all the sounds because we don't need that. Yeah, they're fine, but not during debugging. All right, so we go adult, adult, adult. Bunch of child, nothing happens. We go up again. Nothing. Nothing. Okay, so clearly the children, or excuse me, the adult ticket button seems to work. The children and senior button buttons do not seem to work. And this is what we have going on. So in each of these, we have total dollars and total tickets. And then we have the value that we want to use for each of the different ticket prices. The adult button function or event handler, we are reassigning the value of tickets to whatever it used to be +1. And we are reassigning the value of dollars to whatever dollars used to be plus adult price, which adult price is currently 12.5. There is a way to add 2 decimal places there. It's not that hard. But we'll leave it like this. And then we're setting 2 properties, the text of dollars label and the text of tickets label, which are both concatenations using the new value of those variables. We essentially just need to recreate that exactly. So you don't need to retype things. Same thing, tickets goes up by 1 and dollars goes up by child price. The price of child. Why am I not clicking? Is it weird? Yeah, there we go. I don't know why it does that sometimes. And updating. Yep, and that seems to work. And then same thing for senior. Senior button, let's go. Copy the innards of this. Tickets is still going up by 1, and dollars is going up by senior price, and then it's the same, we're doing the same updates. And if we run, That seems to work. Is there anything else? There we go. That's it. Not too hard. All right, so the last two are checks for understanding, and they are, guys, you need to pay attention to this or let others pay attention. Okay, so this is the type of thing, this type of question is exactly the type of thing that will be on the AP exam. I mean, out of, I don't know, last time it was like 75 questions, there's probably going to be 5 or 6 that are just this really basic program code type of thing where they give you a few lines of code, like these lines of code, and say, what is the value when it's done? Sometimes they're tricky, sometimes they're not, but you do need to understand. Anytime there is a question involving code on the AP exam, there will be something that looks like this, which is a pseudocode reference sheet. Pseudocode is just sort of plain language program code, and it looks like this, okay? And the reason they have this is AP computer science principles can be taught with several different programming languages. It's not only through code.org and not only through App Lab. So they use a generic type of program language. Guys, I need you to keep it down a little bit. Thank you. Or a lot. They use a generic type of program language that anybody who knows what's going on should be able to understand. But if you're not familiar, they will give you a reference sheet that will explain what each of the different syntax, what the syntax means. So this question, they give us 4 lines of code. What is it going to say when it's done? And it's a multiple choice. I'll give you a second to see if you can figure this out, and then we'll go over it in a second. If you look at the pseudocode reference sheet, the most important ones here are the assignment variable, or not variable, operator, command, I don't know. That's how we use single equal sign or gets. And addition, obviously, and display is just like console.log. All right, so let's go over this. After line, anytime you have a question like this that's going to have a variable or several variables, the best bet is to like keep track of it over here as it changes, and then you'll know what's going on at the end. Okay, I know you can't write on your screen, but a piece of scratch paper will help. Okay, after line 1, the value of my points is 2. We'll just put it there. After the second line, the value of my points is now 5. It's completely replaced with the number 5. It's not based on anything prior to that. It just is, now it's 5. Okay, the next line, the value of my points gets whatever it used to be at this point, which is 5, plus 1, which makes it 6, which in theory should be one of the answers, and it is. So there you go. Yep, 6. And next one. Okay, some more code. The program below is run. Which of the following could not possibly be the output from the program? All right, so the reason why it's a question about what's possible is we have some random commands, which we haven't spent we have actually spent some time with random, the random command API call. And that is every time it's run, going to get a different number between, or I should say inclusive within this range. I think it's always going to be yes, it's always going to be an integer, a whole number, and the range includes the parameters. So random 1 through 3 could return 1, 2, or 3. Okay, so here random 1 through 10 could be 1 through 10, and random 10 through 20 could be 10 or any number between 10 and 20. So at the beginning of this, well, I'll give you a second to take a look at it. Yeah. Yeah, sure. There you go. All right, so we have the command to display A twice and display B twice. The key here is that this second display is not asking for a new random number. When this line is run, A is whatever that random number is until it's changed. So the program has to, or the readout, the display has to be the same number twice in a row, and that number better be below 11 and above 0. Random 1 through 10. And then the same thing again, it needs to be the same number twice. So which of these does not have that? And I believe it is this one. This is the only one that does not have the same number twice in a row. And let's see if that's correct. I mean, it has to be. Yeah. 10, 5, 10, 5. All right, so let's move on to bubble 4. Excuse me, not bubble 4, lesson 4, which is just a single medium complex app that you're going to copy from the provided app, which obviously doesn't have the code for you. But let's take a look at how it works. You hit run, and clearly likes is going up or down past 0, apparently. And it doesn't look like that does anything. Let's see what comment adds. Okay, so comment is clearly adding whatever goes in the on event for clicking on the what would you call it, quotation icon. It's not clearing things out, which I'm going to say you need to do that. That's just going to be a policy for the class. And so there's that. We already have, does this do anything? Okay, so that looks like all we need is keeping track of likes, keeping a running track of the comment area. And there's only 3 different buttons or things that can happen: up, down, and add comment. So there's only going to be 3 event handlers. So you can go ahead to the second bubble and go ahead and do this with me for a second right now. A good way to start with any of this is to just make some comments. Okay, what do you want to happen? I'm going to give myself some white space here. Go to like that. And do we have comments? We do. Okay, so what do we want to do? What's one event we need to happen? Thumb up makes likes go up by 1. I don't know why I have caps locks on, but that's fine. I'm not angry. Okay, same thing. Thumb down makes makes likes go down by 1. And the only other thing that's happening is a comment button. That's what it's called, apparently. Comment button gets the input text and adds it to the end of the comments list, and adds it to the end of the comments list. Comment button gets, let's just clear this up, gets input text, adds it to the end of comments, to the comments, and what else does it do? Clears input, clears text input. Okay, so these are the three things that need to happen. Okay, so what else happens? Hold on. What else happens when, somebody please tell me, what else happens when the thumbs up button gets clicked? Likes goes up by 1, but what else does it do? We did this in every single bubble before that had a variable. The variable goes up by 1, but it also displays the new value. That's an important step. Displays new value. Okay, same thing with thumbs down. Displays new value. Okay, and same thing here. As to the end of the comments, well, adds to the end of the comments /add/displays to the end of comments. So start with this as sort of your framework. And you can even sort of put your event handlers like this. So this is, what is the name of this button? This is called up button. Up button does a thing. Then let's get another event handler for down button. I suppose it's called down button. And then the last thing is, or the only other event is comments button, comment button. Okay, and that should get you started. I'll give you a few minutes to pick it up from there. Okay. I know I told you to start here, and do go ahead and throw that in there. But in order for it to work, the next step needs to be to create and assign your variables. I think you need at least 3. If you need some references, the lessons from, the bubbles from lesson 3 that have essentially the answers to this are, let's see if it's that, or that. Okay, bubble 7 from the previous lesson was the one, the reminders list, or the, add reminders, which, oh, I guess it's not saved on mine. Strange. And the bubble 6 will help you with the likes, keeping track of the likes. Okay, with the events changing and updating the number of likes. This was for dollar keeping track of. Okay, so go ahead and take care of that, and we'll go over it shortly. Okay, that's where I'm going to end the video. We'll talk about it later.